Am I an idiot for telling people not to use the hand dryer in a public bathroom? Throw away to protect my daughter's privacy. Here is the situation. My 5-year-old daughter, let's call her Ivy, has ASD and struggles with anxiety. Loud noises in general terrify her, and none more so than hand dryers. For this reason, public bathrooms have always been a challenge, and it's something I have to take into account whenever we leave the house. Anyway, Ivy likes stories, so we often go to the local library to read books together. The bathrooms there have a hand dryer, but also a paper towel dispenser. Whenever she needs the bathroom while we are there, I go with her, and politely ask anyone who comes in if they'd mind using the paper towels instead of the hand dryer because the noise really scares my kid. People tend to be nice, and this has never been a problem for anyone. However, yesterday a woman came in to wash her hands, and when I asked her, she rolled her eyes at me and just blatantly told me no. Ivy, who was already on the toilet overhead and started panicking and tried to leave the bathroom, but she was too late. The woman turned on the hand dryer, and Ivy was so upset that she started hyperventilating, and I had to escort her out, and it took a while to calm her down. The woman passed by us at some point and rolled her eyes again, told me that I am not doing my daughter any favors, and that she is old enough to learn to deal with it. I was so shocked I had no response other than telling her to get out. I felt she was way out of line, but my husband agrees a little and thinks I should not expect the world to accommodate Ivy, and that it was a bit entitled of me to ask. It's such a small thing, though, and I never imagined it could be an inconvenience to anyone, or I would not have asked. Paper towels are more hygienic anyway. Of course, I know Ivy has to work on this fear, but the world is already asking so much of her at the moment. I want her to tackle it in her own time. Ivy now says she never wants to go to the library again. I hate that this safe space has been taken away from her. Am I an idiot? Edit. I've been trying to keep up with the comments, and I think you and my husband are right. I have not handled this well, and I should not have relied on others to accommodate Ivy. But this is difficult for me. See, the whole world is just such an inhospitable place to Ivy. She is 5 years old, and nothing has been easy for her. She has sensory issues, but also motor difficulties, gastrointestinal issues, other nightmares and irrational fears, a language delay, social-emotional challenges, and more. Everything is a struggle. Most of these things I cannot shield her from, and she has to face them, and she has to fight, and she has to cope every day. Her paralyzing fear of hand dryers is almost a minor thing in comparison. They're generally easy to avoid. We only use the library bathroom because we know there's the paper towel option there. Otherwise, there's usually a disabled toilet, or we just don't go. Ivy doesn't like a lot of public places anyway, something I thought we could just park for a while. Yes, a part of me felt like the world should do this one thing for her, in one of the few places she feels happy aside from her own room, because I see how hard she works to adjust. A part of me still feels like that because, I'm a parent, and if I could change the world for her, I would. But you've all made me realize this is not fair, not to Ivy, and not to everyone else who has their own life to live and their own fights to fight. I'm going to explore if noise-canceling headphones are an option for her. She also does not like things on her head, so I am not sure if this really is the easy fix we have been looking for, but it's definitely an avenue to explore. Thank you. Edit 2. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who personally reached out to me via private message to share experiences, tips, and ideas, especially those of you who, like Ivy, are living with ASD. I have not been able to respond to all of you. It has been an intense day filtering through genuine feedback, support, well-meant censure, and abuse. There are a lot of emotions involved, and my focus is on Ivy now and how to move forward, so I'm going to leave this throwaway and sign off. I just don't want to go without letting you know how much I truly appreciate everyone for reaching out, and I know where to go for advice in the future. No idiots here. You're not an idiot for asking, but you need to accept the answer might be no. People will have their own reasons. While we can control ourselves, we can't control others. That's real life. So think of what you can control. Find if there's anywhere near the library that has private toilet stools. Bring her noise-canceling headphones too, things like that. You're an idiot. Instead of asking the general public to cater to your daughter's irrational fear, you should be working with her to learn to overcome it. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for getting rid of my son's tickets? It's been since November. My son, 4, has been asking to go to Monster Jam. We bought the tickets about a month ago, and my son has been so excited ever since. For the past 2 weeks, he's been having terrible behavior issues at school. We've gone through this once before and found some coping skills to help him settle down, but all of a sudden it's gotten so much worse. My husband works 6 days a week, and it can be anywhere from 14 hours a day, so he's rarely home and doesn't really see any of this. I've consistently talked to our son about needing to change his behavior at school and have tried to help him with better ways to handle his emotions, but he doesn't seem to really care. I feel this is probably where things started to go wrong, but I told him he wouldn't be able to go to Monster Jam if I kept having to pick him up early or get bad reports at the end of the day. I finally was at the end of my rope the other day when I came to pick him up, and his teacher told me he stomped and broke his glasses that we only got him a week ago, and he almost pushed a desk onto another child. The whole day they struggled with him, and he kept telling them he didn't care. Once we got home, I told him he's not going to Monster Jam, and I got online to resell the tickets since there's no refunds. My husband had to stay the night at his job, so he wasn't going to be home that day or night. When we finally got to talk on the phone, he was furious I would do this and said how horrible it was of me because our son has been looking forward to this for months, and he says it's too serious of a punishment for a 4-year-old. He'll be 5 in July. The tickets sold almost instantly, so there's no getting them back now, and my husband doesn't even want to speak to me. I'm sorry for this being so long and kind of all over the place. This has just been so draining and frustrating. Am I being the idiot in this situation, or do I need to do some apologizing? Edit. I'm realizing I probably should have mentioned that we do have a recommendation for a counselor and are just waiting for them to have an opening. Also, the event was this weekend. I really do appreciate all of the input and want to learn from this another edit, since there's a lot of comments and I can't respond to them all individually. We have spoken to his doctor and did get the recommendation for therapy, but we have to wait. It's the only pediatric therapy center we have that isn't almost 2 hours away. We have a safety plan in place at his school where he has a safe area to go into, where there's some soft stuff he's able to hit or throw to get the angry feeling out, then come back out to talk to someone so we can talk through his feelings. I would never ever spank or hit my child. We also don't yell at him and have been working really hard to get him different ways to communicate his feelings with us. We are still going to do a family activity so that we can all be together, but it'll be something closer to home. I have definitely apologized to him as well. I do agree I shouldn't have made a decision so hastily and without speaking to my husband first. The comments saying my son will hate me and go to therapy for this, then never speak to me, seem a little much as this isn't something that happens regularly, and I want to continue learning how to parent better. Probably the last edit to add, I really appreciate every bit of advice I've gotten and want to do what I can to do better in the future. There's a lot I've been told here that no doctor or teacher has said, so I've got a lot more learning to do. I've ordered a few of the books that have been mentioned. I've also emailed his teacher to have a meeting on Monday to discuss all of the options we have and discuss if there are certain times or things happening that set off these tantrums. He goes to school Monday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., and I'm wondering if that is just too much for him. So it's something I wrote down that I can bring up to his teachers as well. Resources around here aren't very good, so I'm realizing now that I need to push harder to make them available for him because I'm his only advocate to get help. I also need to see my own therapist to give me some better tools as well. I was finally able to speak to my husband in person as I haven't seen him since Thursday and it's now Saturday. We've had a discussion about his work hours and him needing to make an effort to be more present while at home and try to be there for his school activities. We spent the day doing some cool science experiments and he told us that science was better than Monster Jam, so I'm hoping he won't be too upset with me for long. I've also apologized and explained that sometimes Mom gets upset and overwhelmed just like he does. This is the first time this type of punishment has ever happened, and after giving time to think on it, I'm disappointed in myself how it was handled, because it's something my parents would have done, and it's not how I want to be with my son. I know it's too late to take the punishment back and what it has done, but I really truly do want to learn and grow from this and be better for him. I do love my son more than anything though, and that is something we talk about daily, that Mom will always love him no matter what's happening, and I would never intentionally hurt him. Not an idiot. The parent that's dealing with the behavior gets to make the decision. Sorry, not saying it's his fault he works so much, but he's completely absent, and therefore his opinion doesn't matter much. 4, almost 5 years old is 100% old enough to understand that his actions have consequences. You told him ahead of time that this was going to be the consequence, and you need to follow through with that, or he's not going to take you seriously in the future. You're an idiot. This is a big punishment that is not going to have the desired effect, and the reason for the judgment, your husband should have had a say. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for kicking my sister out after she refused to babysit my son? I, 30, female, live with my husband, 31, male, and our son, M5. My sister, 22, female, is still in college and had to move out with us 3 months ago because she had some issues with her roommates. Things were going fine until this argument. Also, she doesn't work, but my parents send her some money for textbooks and groceries, although she barely ever has contributed to the household since she moved in with us. We also live in a different state from our parents and family, so I'm basically throwing her in the streets by kicking her out, which would make me a big idiot. So my son comes back from school at around 3 p.m/3:30. My husband works until 6 and I work until 5. Although sometimes I have to stay an hour or 2 extra, this is not normal, maybe 3 or 4 times per month when we're behind in a project. We had a babysitter that would wait until he's back. He comes back home via the school bus and would stay with him until me or my husband come back from work. However, she recently discovered she's sick and told us that she can't continue working as she has to go through treatment. We thanked her for telling us and wished she would get better soon. I asked my sister to babysit our son until we can get a new babysitter given that she doesn't have classes at that time. She told me she never agreed to babysit when she moved in here and that I should have told her beforehand so she could find somewhere else to live. I told her that I knew this wasn't our agreement, but this was something exceptional since our babysitter has medical issues. It's not either of our fault, and she would prefer a 100 times to not be in this situation. She still told me she can't babysit because sometimes she has to go to the library or to study with friends, and babysitting would limit her hours of studying. I got angry, maybe too angry, so I told her that we never ask anything from her. We helped her because we wanted to be kind with her, and yet she can't even compromise to stay a few hours home just until we find a new babysitter. I ended up telling her she has a week to leave because we will not be providing food or a roof to a witch like her. One of my son's friend's mom is taking care of my son now. They go back to her home together and I pick him up later. My sister tried to apologize, but I told her I don't want to live with her because she showed me her true colors. She also has told our family, and a lot of them are giving me poop for leaving my sister homeless. My husband, my in-laws, and friends support me, but it feels hard if my family isn't on my side, which makes me think I'm an idiot, to be honest. Edit. It wasn't easy to find another person to take care of my son. I had to take 2 days from work, which will be taken from my next paycheck. Not an idiot. You were not asking her to babysit indefinitely, just literally to help out while you looked for an alternative. She was all fine and dandy with living with you for free while not contributing at all to the household. And the first time you asked her for temporary assistance with something, she made it clear that she has zero intention of helping out ever. You are under no obligation to help someone out who would not reciprocate when you need them. Not an idiot. Screw those saying otherwise. You already gave her a huge favor by giving her free rent and food. You're just asking for temporary help, and she doesn't even have class at that time. That is just way too small compensation for what you're providing her. Now, for the next story. Am I an idiot for not letting my son ride more rides? I, 28 male, have a son, Brian, 10, male. After saving for years, my GF and I were finally able to take him to Disney. Really been looking forward to this trip, all of us. One of the main co-parenting issues my ex and I have is how much she spoils him. He is not used to hearing the word no and has gotten much worse over the last couple years. Full-blown toddler tantrums at times. He was already starting to pout BC of the long lines, but when we finally got up very close to getting on the ride, my GF started to feel very bad. She's diabetic, and obviously her sugar had dropped. We needed to get food in her immediately. She insisted I stay and ride with him while she went to find food, but I have literally seen her pass out before, so I couldn't do that. Told my son, I'm sorry, we will come back, but we have to get her food or she will get very sick. First it was crying, then it was crying and screaming. PPL are looking. GF looks embarrassed. Then he throws himself on the ground, refusing to get up until we ride. Right now, he keeps screaming. Eventually, I picked him up like a plank of wood, and we walked off him, kicking and screaming the entire time. We got her food. She felt better. He immediately started saying, let's go, let's go. I was fuming, and maybe I was the AH here. I told him after that BS he just pulled, I didn't think he deserved to ride anything else until he apologized to me and GF for his behavior. He told me he would tell Mom. I told him I couldn't possibly give less of a crap. Back to the hotel we went. He's not speaking to me. His mother says I'm a total ass and my GF just feels like it's her fault and maybe we should have let him ride more. Am I an idiot? Edited to add, we brought snacks like plenty for her and him. He went overboard with eating, then BC, yes, he's a kid and bored. I told her many times not to run out because he's just bored, and she said she had enough. After this ride, it was time to re-up on snacks and such anyways, but the wait ended up being much longer, and she realized she had in fact given him the last one. She was certain she had another. She did it BC1, she loves him, and in 2 she didn't want to escalate further as he was getting worse and worse. I was trying to not let him get away with the nonsense as I always do, but def more lenient BC, it's Disney. The tantrum wasn't for me, however. Just thought I'd clarify and thank all of you so much for the constructive comments. Edit 2. Thanks most if you think that actually made sense. I won't be responding after this update because frankly I'm done. After a night of rest, we went down to breakfast and had what I thought was a really good talk. I told him I was sorry for not being at my best and handling it wrong, and asked him if he understood the reaction to having to get out of line wasn't okay. Also talked to him about him telling his mom that he is not going to work. He never apologized. That's fine. I told him if he would like, we could go do some fun activities before heading out. He proceeded to tell me, I'd rather the PS5 I've been asking you for, let's just go get that. I'm just done. You're an idiot. Based on giving away the safety snacks in the line. Why did you decide to enforce boundaries seriously on a dream trip? Parenting needs to be in the trenches every time you're with him. Then you get to relax it for big trips and holidays. If you've let it slide before, you really screwed yourself over. Everyone sucks here. Your girlfriend has been diabetic her whole life and knows better than to give all the snacks away. You have had a kid for 10 years and should have known to bring snacks. Your kid is 10, should know better than to throw themselves on the ground. At the end of the day, your kid will never forget that you took him to Disney, but didn't let him go on any rides because of your girlfriend.